Elementary School District, aka Athens Grafton. And we are now meeting at 6 p.m. at the Grafton Elementary School, and I'm calling this meeting officially to order. There. Before we adjust the agenda, I have introductions, and they'll start to my immediate left, and walk around, and then we'll introduce the people on the screen.
Okay, I'm Harold Norris, Athens.
Lynn Morgan, Athens.
Kathy Siano Goodwin, Grafton.
Jack Fryer, Grafton.
Andy Haas, Superintendent of Schools.
Angelo, introduce yourself.
Angela Cartier, principal at Grafton Elementary School.
Krista, introduce yourself. You're breaking up there, Krista. Hopefully, you have clarified.
Log in my computer, so I'm trying to the link won't work.
Got it.
You might need to turn the video off just to make the audio work.
Yeah, Krista, did you hear that? We as much as we like seeing you, we need to hear you, if at all possible. Hardy, are you there? I see. Looks like Nancy's line's open. Well, we will note the potential presence of Hardy. I'm not sure what this situation is tonight. And I can't read what else underneath here.
He's on his way.
Oh, he is. Okay, we weren't sure if he was coming tonight. And by God, there he is.
Speak of him, there he is.
Hey, Captain, how are you doing?
Not there yet. I'd be good.
Yeah,
He just walked in.
He's carefully walking in.
Yep, I missed that. And then we have Nicole in Fact TV. So Nicole,
All right. So, Hardy, introduce yourself.
I'm Hardy Merrill, Grafton.
There we go. And we'll note that Fact TV is on, and that Nicole Barnett is on, presumably taking wonderful notes. And there we are. Adjustments to the agenda. Are there any from anybody? Hearing none.
I'd like to
There we go.
be able to just review a little bit about the playground.
So let's put down in old business, a 6B, playground status. All right, and also in 7A, did we get the accompanying documentation on all those? Did that get to everybody tonight? I actually confess I didn't look to see if it was in the material sent to the elementary school district.
All the different policies.
Yeah.
I don't know if we actually sent them or if they've been posted online. They have been posted online.
No, they've been posted online. I don't know if people had a chance.
Hi, it's Nicole. I did send them out.
Okay. Well then, did people have a chance to look at them? Because it's small books worth of material. And
Oh, was that the,
This is the Federal Child Nutrition Act and the student homeless, who are homeless, and
the reason I'm asking is because I don't know if I should pass this over or if we want to deal with this evening. These are mostly required, but I don't know
you
if I
can
do.
go over it.
The
I
same ones
didn't
that
get my
went over.
email today, so.
All right.
You were there.
now, would this be the first meeting of these, or?
Yeah.
Well, this would be effectively for us the second, because we're essentially the first at the high school and second at the district. Right.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure
It's
can.
really maybe new or old business. It's on the amending the lease because of the addition of the
Oh,
land.
thank you for bringing that
Okay,
up.
'cause
I've
there's a
forgotten that. I think that's
deadline.
still floating around, isn't it? Okay, yeah, so let's put that as a new 7A, because we can deal with that first, and then we'll give Kathy and whoever needs to a couple more minutes to look at all these new business policy items.
So 7A is.
7A is lease modification, and I'm going to guess you'll speak to it. And then the current 7A becomes a 7B. And I think that takes care of us all. So, any other items? All right, so communication and public comment. Do we have anything from anybody anywhere?
I don't see anything.
All right, I will note for the record that we did have I did finally send around the
Whiteboard?
whiteboard notes,
Mhm.
and we'll have those as basis for some discussions in future meetings, but yeah, better late than never. Sorry about that. That moves us on to 5, review and approve minutes from October 13th. Did people look at those, see those?
Yes, I did.
See anything that was awry from your perspective?
I make a motion we approve the minutes.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Then unless there's an objection, is there any objection to this? Then we will consider them approved. Old business for discussion action, preliminary budget discussion. I'm going to, Jim's not here or online. Do we have any further updates on where we stand?
With the budget
Yes.
discussion? So, we had the finance meeting, the committee met yesterday, right? I
Yes,
can't remember where.
yes, it was. We met
Do you
yesterday.
want to speak to that, or do you want me to keep going?
I'll speak to it.
You're much more articulate tonight.
Yesterday at the WNSU meeting, we had a finance committee meeting looking at the WNSU budget. And we made some reductions in that budget, close to probably $500,000. And then we're going to add back a bus probably, which we're not sure how much that's going to be, but probably about $100,000. All said and told, they're working on the assessments that's going to go to everybody. But basically, Grafton Athens, as near as I can tell so far, we're holding pretty steady with what we did last year as far as our assessment. Some of the assessments are going up in other districts, but we're pretty much holding our own. And I expect that to continue based on the head count. And we also did review a head count sheet yesterday, which is, as far as the budget goes going forward for us, I think it's very important that we get an understanding of what is anticipated to be in our 7th and 8th grade next year and our kindergarten through 6th grade here next year, not this year.
Right.
And if I look at some of the numbers, we have right now at the school in Bellas Falls, we have 3 kids that are going to be going out of the 8th grade and 4 kids going up from the 7th grade to the 8th grade. But we're also got 10 kids from our 6th grade that are going to be going in. So the tuition number is going to be very significant that we have to calculate for this budget to make sure it's a good number. We also have, I looked back a little bit and I find that we had 3 kids in the 7th grade that were going to Green Mountain.
Right.
And I don't know if there's any others. I know there was one that was going to Putney that graduated. I believe she was in the 8th grade.
Right.
And I don't know whether there are any others or not, but they'll have to be taken into account as well.
Traditionally, we have sent over the last 10 years, we've sent significantly more kids to Green Mountain than we have to the middle school. And I don't know whether that trend is going to continue. We send more now than we used to, because there was a long time where the number going to middle school was 0.
Yeah, so Angie and Sarah sent me over already. The
They did send
numbers.
out
Yeah,
those.
I'm trying to get it from all the different schools, but it looks like, like currently you've got 2 8th graders that are at Green Mountain,
Okay.
a 9th grader, 2 10th graders, and 3 11th graders that are at Green Mountain. But really, the 8th grade is all you care about.
So-
I don't mean that. I don't mean that.
So-
It's for money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
7th and 8th grade or
And then at Leland and Gray, you have two 8th graders.
Okay,
Oh, I
2.
forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
At Compass, you have 1 8th grader. And then currently at the middle school, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 eighth graders, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eighth graders.
Okay,
So these were just sent over to me this morning, so.
okay.
I'm confused. You said middle school, we have 4 eighth graders.
No,
and-
no, I think it's 4 7th graders and 5 8th graders.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
And
I
then,
knew what you were saying.
yeah, and then I know Angie's on the line. I mean, I can pull it, Angie, if you know, like, current 6th grade and.
Yeah, are you talking about the current 6th graders that we have?
There's 10 of them.
What's your question about it? Where,
10, correct?
yes,
But this is just assuming people are going where they, oh, we know where everybody's going. Christy, your hand's up, and by the way, we're so small, you can just butt in if you want.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
My question, this goes off of, I think, what Angela and Andy were just saying. I don't know which 6th graders are going to be tuition out. The correct term is
The term here, see, everybody and yeah, all this, we're trying to figure out how many that are going to be tuitioned out, because we have those we have to pay for per body, if you will, put it crassly, and so they're not part of the fancy formula that we use to calculate cost and recovery for the elementary school. So when we have big bumps, and now that we're small again, we have that wild variation that we used to drive us crazy. That's back. And so, some years, very small group of 7th and 8th graders, and other years we've had 20, and the budget has reflected that. So that often makes a real difference on people's tax bills.
I was
So
just
there's
asking,
four-
I full choice to Gray. I went to Gray for middle school, and I didn't make my decision about where I was going to school until like very close to graduation. So I was just wondering when we would have that information. It seems variable.
so typically in the springtime, the students in the 6th grade go on like field trips to those schools, and then after they've done that, they decide. So it probably won't be until the spring.
Makes sense.
And often, we may have families that tell us that they want to go to
Where-
school A,
Right.
and then at the last minute, they make a decision to go to school B.
Yeah.
And the point is that there'll be 10 of them going somewhere.
Right, that's the point, is that you need to
Budget-wise, you
anticipate that 10,
Yeah.
and potentially 10 could go outside of our district. I think that's a,
Well, yeah, I think we tend to work on an assumption, just for budgeting purposes, of between 10 and 12, partly because
could have moved.
if you're trying to cushion for a surplus,
Yeah.
that's where you do it.
Better to have enough than not.
Right, so you always want to make sure you don't get caught by surprise.
Uh-huh.
I think it's helpful. Anything further on this?
No, I think for today, until Jim gets, a little bit further down the path here,
Right.
I think that's sufficient.
Well, something I brought up last night and would appreciate bringing up here too is when we all have something ready for sort of community review, so that we're not doing just an up or down the vote, but people get to have input. If we can get something postable, and I know we're not ready yet, but when we are ready, I'd like to be able to do that at that point.
Yeah, I think Mr. Kibbe's kind of keeping our feet to the fire, that we're gonna have a first preliminary draft, full draft to the SU board by the end of November.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
and since I made such a fuss about this in past years, I think he's going to try to prove that it's easy to do if you get the right person doing it.
yeah, so I think once, because the way Mr. Jim Vizina has really built his system so that as we're upgrading, like staffing is, as he says, 78% of our budget, right?
Yeah.
So he can pump those numbers in, and we're working already. He already has like a lot of your
Right.
costs already out there,
Yeah.
and then you can plug in a couple numbers at the last minute, and we'll we'll move pretty quickly. So I'm really excited about, you know, where we are.
I had been Michelle Tala asked me about if we would be, because not all years have we provided any information to town budgets, but we did last year, and I'd like us to, with your agreement, at least try to make sure that we have that functions-based budget and the usual notes in both the Athens and Grafton town reports, in addition to whatever we put in the combined SU thing.
And I love the idea of actually just, you know, posting the draft budgets up there, right? Like, what are we hiding? We're not trying to.
Yeah.
Let's get it out there. People can look at it.
Well, if you know, since we don't have town meetings where people can modify stuff on the floor, this is the best way to deal with that, it seems. All right.
If I could answer a question. Do we have any numbers, maybe way too early, as to how many kindergartens will be coming in next year too, or?
Yeah, no, we have that numbers, or those numbers. There are, I want to say off the top of my head, we have 13 next year coming in.
Okay.
So we're
There you go.
losing 9 and we're getting 13.
Yeah, good, thank you.
You know, I remember a number between 7 and 12 when we were talking about this a while ago. So
That's good.
there you go. That's good.
Is Leland and Gray gonna be open next year?
Yep.
Or there was rumor that it was gonna close.
They voted to keep it open.
Yeah.
So.
Good.
Yeah. And actually, I don't think it was that close, as it turned out.
No, it was, I mean, it was pretty robust to keep it open.
Yeah.
So.
Good.
All righty. So
I think Mr. Anton is leaving.
he
He's the
is.
superintendent. That's the latest I.
Bill, I heard from Bill like a couple months ago that was on. So I guess we're done on 6A. We can move on to 7A, and the first item
No,
is
you got 6B.
6B. Thank you. Sorry.
Playground.
Playground. My apologies.
So Angela, I asked Andy, I think before you got on, about the different forms that we need. And he says he has all of those and he'll get them to us. So we can,
Well, I need to sit with you and fill them out.
oh, okay. We're
I have the
working
access.
on it.
I have the access.
Okay. So we've got that question answered. And,
And then I have already also emailed our legal
okay,
about the ADA question. So
Okay.
hopefully tomorrow I'll have an answer on that.
all right. Because that, one of the big things we talked about at the last meeting was the surface, what you put down.
Right.
And none of us could find anything that said, you know, this is what you want. It was
Big.
very vague.
And I think it's because it's talking about equal access. So
Yeah.
if they get real specific, you might leave out a group. So,
Yeah.
So
Oh.
you wish there was a minimum, right? That, you know,
Right.
like that you could say, like, you got to make sure you have this. And
Mhm.
I mean, I think rule of thumb that I've always used is you have to have a surface that, you know, perhaps a person who uses a wheelchair or some type of walker can reasonably get to the apparatus,
Right.
you know, unassisted.
Mhm.
And so that's where like wood chips become, you can't do that. So you put a path in, right?
Yeah,
And then that
okay.
path has to have some kind of, can't just be some dirt path. You have to have some way to.
Which is why a lot of places end up just being big old rubber mat with the artificial turf type of surface.
Right, and so I think, you know, our legal team will get back to us real. you know,
Okay.
right? So I
Because
do
there's so many
apologize for
different ones out there and they all had, each one of them listed the problems with them. And,
Well,
like one of the
the-
best
the-
ones, the problem was it was so expensive, most people
Well.
couldn't use it.
I think a lot of this has been, particularly in Vermont, is they don't want to force people to into a straitjacket, but their attempt to be accommodating just means that they give you nothing you can use as a reference point for best practices.
We can put in an 80 by 150 artificial pitch, you know,
Yeah.
and line it, and then you can, you know,
Mhm.
put some lights up and you can run some games out.
You know, I think cornhole would be the big.
Yeah, that's
Um, All right,
You have to think about your fall zones. Where kids
Right.
are gonna fall off a piece of equipment,
All
depending
that.
on their weight and height,
Yeah.
the cushion underneath.
well, now you
So
know
that's
what,
like,
And I,
with the wood chips, we have the depth we need for that.
Well-
And everything varies
Right, and
depending
then
on
you
what
get
the
into,
surface
you get
is.
rubber pellets and rubber chips and.
the reason I'm so reassured that I don't have to think about this is because I have people that will have to think about it for me. The only thing I ask you guys is if you can get this nailed down before early December, because I'd like to be able to, as I said, I'm obsessed with being able to say in our report, we've got this handled, and oh, by the way, if there are ancillary costs. what they
Well,
are.
once we can get connected with somebody that can guide us, we can
All
get
right.
it nailed down,
Yeah.
because the research that I'm able to do, and it seems like everybody else,
If
we
you,
can't get any,
if you need me to
information.
jump in and, let me know.
Okay.
I'll help.
well,
there's, and I
the
did,
legal help should probably,
because the town is doing the elevator, we had to go through the ADA stuff. But it's the Division of Fire Safety, Springfield on Mineral Street, and the guy's name is Landon Wheeler.
okay.
Contact. So
Brandon Wheeler.
So he's the person that if you wanted, any questions about your playground or safety issues.
What's his last name?
Landon Wheeler,
Wheeler, thank you.
and his number is 802-369-0949.
Thank you for that, Kathy.
Okay, okay. So 6A, 6B done. Ooh, the new 7A,
Yeah,
that's yours, isn't it? No, that's
Yeah,
yours.
the
the lease.
Kathy, didn't
The
you,
lease, you asked me.
about the lease
Oh, yeah,
modification or
yeah,
something?
yes. I spoke to Bill today, and a survey has to be done of that area. And we're waiting for Depot to do
They didn't
that.
do the survey, I thought that was what they did.
It was a guess.
Well, it has to,
No, Bill did it, measured it
Okay,
himself.
yeah.
Do it. And
Yeah,
they
he
did
said-
a sketch, but it's not an official
No,
document.
Depot's gotta look at
okay,
that.
so what's their
And-
timeline?
I think you have 180 days, starting, was it September 1st, whenever they did the
All right.
thing.
That-
But it has to be amended, and you said 180 days, and you've got some time now, but.
I'd like to be able to do it before we have the district meeting, so
Yeah.
we can, I don't think this is an obligation to have it on the district meeting, because we're not adding any dollars, but it's still a contract, and I think we should have.
Right, it should be amended to
Well,
that.
yeah, and we should do it there, and I should sign it then, or my successor should, whatever the deal is back at that point.
Why do we need a survey of the playground area? Since it
No,
has-
the
No,
playground,
this is not the
no,
lease area.
I thought it was the playground, it's this piece out here.
You know, we took that look,
Piece.
when the original line for this building was
Uh-huh.
done, it was done improperly.
Um,
And so you literally had, the line instead of where the fence now is.
Yeah.
Was literally about
By
a foot
the
and a half into the concrete of the back steps
Oh.
right here.
Yes.
So as a consequence, when we try to get that walkway fixed.
Yeah.
Guess we could fix it a little nicer. We had to change the ownership of the land.
Mhm.
And went through a whole thing with our neighbor to get that done, and she was happily more
She
accommodating.
basically gave it to us.
Yeah, she really did. No, and
Yeah.
we, at some point, we did send her a letter of appreciation.
Wonderful.
In any case, that's what this is
So
about.
Devo's just gonna include that parcel
Right, and
onto
essentially,
our
Yeah,
sketch.
It's gonna be, basically, the kids are gonna be going out that door or having lunch on the other
Mhm.
side, and it was on her property, so there's a liability issue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
other thing that happened in a positive way is that walkway got repaired.
Yeah.
By the town.
Mhm.
and at some point, put fancy marble and Kathy's gonna buy lights for the, to go down there. Did I get that
It
right,
is,
right?
it is fixed now, and the water is going away from it, so.
That's
a
all
good thing.
big plus, yeah.
It was good.
All right. So that's that item. And now we're on to the review and approve policies. Now, I've seen them way too many times. But Kathy, are you comfortable doing these tonight? I just want to make sure that everybody is comfortable, because I am, but I don't want to.
I mean,
I don't want to roll.
heard the discussion, and I do have it, because I don't know if I read all through them, but I was familiar with them.
All right.
They're all legal requirements
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, they're all ones that
Right.
we're.
And just for those who might watch that TV at some point, these policies, and they have new alphanumerics, because we're fixing ours, is what's called proficiency-based, not basis, by the way, based graduation requirements. So it's D1, and that needs to be tweaked for this. Grade advancement, retention, promotion, acceleration of students is D1A, it's essentially a subset. Animal dissection.
I thought that was interesting.
This is
You
all.
watched yesterday, did you?
This is always an issue
Yeah, there
every
was a
year.
question, what kind of animals?
Well, let me say what I didn't say in
The
the
same
meeting
ones I
last.
did in high school.
Well, no, not necessarily. The Fellows Falls Union High School, when Dr. Steiner ran the anatomy class, they dissected a lamb, I believe it was and so it was like a pit in that class. And refrigeration was an issue at one point. So I don't.
It's a little important with those.
So you don't forget these things.
Ours were all.
Now, on the other hand, it's one of the
Probably
reasons.
was someone from down on the farm.
Was one of the reasons why we place so many kids in vet and nursing programs, I swear. Anyway, so that's what that was all about. D35, B35, this actually sometimes is an issue, and I don't recall much discussion about it the other night. Animals in the classroom. The reason why it's an issue is because,
It's with allergies.
well, also because Westminster used to bring lambs. Yeah, it has a sheep thing. Lambs into the
What's for dinner?
classroom, huh?
What's for dinner, Jack?
Yeah. For years.
Why?
Don't ask me.
Well, I
Got
thought there
no
was
clue.
an educational reason.
Well, hopefully it's an educational reason, but they did that for kindergarten, and we did some funky thing for a couple of years. Krista, they brought an animal in either the year before you started or the year you started. Do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I was here when they brought in animals. I think they were local ones though. I like from the sheep farm down over the hill.
Right. Well, I was explaining this to Andy. You couldn't quite believe we did this type of stuff back.
I believe it.
Yeah,
I'm not shocked.
That is not as supportive as it could be. But anyway.
Animals though. We had people bring in animals for show and tell. One time I brought in all my baby ducks. Another time they brought in reptiles.
So, and I vaguely recall a horse, a foal at one point, but I won't go there.
I think it's also around service animals.
Service dogs.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of folks are entitled under ADA to have comfort animals, but they're actually not service animals. And there's a certain level of training that goes into service animals.
Yeah.
And so to ensure the animal is compliant with all the things it needs to be a service animal, you want to make sure you really are doing that, because it might be a comfort animal, but that actually might end up harming or doing some other damage type of stuff. And so I think it's there for that purpose also, is to protect, so that if you need to have a service animal, which you're under ADA, you could be entitled to, but there are now people out there who have like comfort alligators, and I'm not exaggerating.
They do.
Hey,
So
the South. I get nothing. Does this restrict us in any way in terms of I don't know if we still do the.
No, because it allows for the superintendent, in this policy, it allows for the superintendent to give permission. So if Krista wanted to bring her ducklings in, we could give permission for Krista to bring her ducklings in. Or you want to bring your lamb, we could.
We haven't done the school hamster thing in a very long time.
No,
As far as
but it does provide us those.
Yeah. So if you had a nature program that was bringing in
Right.
critters
Right.
to help you, you could still do that.
Well, the hamster program helped that anatomy program, because, they rarely made it through the years. No, never mind. Okay.
What about fish?
Again, it allows for the discretion of the superintendent to provide that. So if a classroom wanted to have fish and do that, I mean,
You got to check in with
you just got to make sure we, I guess, given our blessing to it. So that's all.
Piranhas are no, goldfish are no, okay. All right, moving on, policy on non-discriminatory mascots and school branding. This is the business of the Brattleboro Rebels type of stuff, which we don't have, although I still hold out that as much as I like the craft.
Feeling and gray rebels. Brattleboros are cool.
Yeah, well, as much as I like the Panthers, I still have a warm spot in my heart for the earlier mascot, the Mercenaries, for only in it for the money. I always loved that, but be that as it may. C9, child nutrition, Act wellness policy, and the homeless policy, which is C13. Yes.
I have a question on the graduation requirements. When I read through that,
Yep.
I didn't see anything about credits.
So, right, because it's not really about credits anymore. So in Vermont, I mean, we have a hybrid system at our high school. So you have credits and you have proficiency graduation. But theoretically, it's a student has to meet the proficiency. And by meeting proficiencies, you're also earning credits. But it's changed, the system's changed to this proficiency. So you have to show proficiency as opposed to just earning credits. So the other piece, just real quick, some of these, like, are very specific more to a high school than they are to, say, Grafton Elementary. But what we're trying to look at is every district supporting all these, because if this just lived in the high school, sometimes it gets lost, so just trying to get a supporting, but then if Grafton needed something very specific because of Grafton could still adopt another policy just specific for Grafton.
And that's acceptable to colleges that a child might be going on to?
Oh, for proficiencies?
Right.
Yeah, a lot of college, I mean, and that's why we still have a
Because often
hybrid.
they just want to look at the credits, how many credits.
That's why we still have a
21
hybrid
or
system.
18.
That's why we still have a hybrid system. But I just haven't had a child go through that and coming out of another state that had gone to proficiency based. Had a lot of conversations with colleges and universities that are well aware of it. What typically happens is you send along your proficiency report card, but then you also have to send along your course of studies, and then also how you meet proficiencies. So you send all this, and the schools kind of look at it, and they migrate it over to their system, and they've always done that anyway. So we might say a child comes out of Bellows Falls Union High School with a 4.2 GPA because they got all this stuff. Well, when you go to college, the colleges have ranked Bellows Falls Union High, however they've done it. So an A out of Bellows Falls Union High School may not be the equivalent of an A out of Leland and Gray or an A out of Burlington High School. They've already weighted.
So do the students get a GPA?
Yes, so they get a GPA, they get credits, and they get proficiencies.
I think some of this has to do with kids that may need accommodations, but it's also, and kids that want to graduate early who essentially have done the work but may not have accumulated.
No, well, Jack, Vermont
2 or 3 years, right?
Vermont years ago moved to a proficiency-based system.
The law.
And it's for all students.
Right.
It benefits, it can benefit the whole range of students, but it does benefit a lot of students who maybe in the past would struggle to meet did you get your homework in on time? Did you do all these things? So how can you show proficiency and understanding and mastery of a subject as opposed to maybe another way? I have seen students who have been able to demonstrate mathematics through music. I've been able to see students demonstrate the art competencies or the art pieces of your traditional art class through graphic computers. So it's taking the standards and then saying, okay, if this is what proficiency looks like, how do you meet that proficiency? How can you prove that you understand this? And another way I explain it is with a tangible, let's say we're going to land an airplane, right? So if you come down and you go to land that airplane and you hit and one wheel collapses underneath you and you slide, is that an A, a B, a C, a D? What is that? And if you got a D, in a traditional grading standard, you get credit and you move on. I don't know if I want a pilot who landed a plane, you know, so it's proficiency, right? How many times does it take you to land that plane to show that you understand how to land that plane? And so that's what proficiencies are about, is demonstrating you mastered and understand material as opposed to just, did you turn in the work and did you get the job done?
Well, there was a kid a few years ago that got held up because they didn't have their art credit, despite the fact that they had won a jury trial for sculpture in New York, and it also entered something in drawing. You know, hard to say they're not proficient in art.
Right. When I was graduating from college, everyone had to take Speech 101 requirement. I took argument, not Speech 101. I took argument. And there was another guy who was a debate major, but never took Speech 101. And they weren't going to let us graduate. And they told us.
Well, you can argue that.
So they told us the last test out is in 10 minutes across campus. So we ran across campus and got there. And we're standing there to go in, and someone turned to us and said, "So what did you prepare your speech on?" 5-minute prepared speech you were supposed to have. So I said I'd go first to get it over with. And I stood up and I gave a 5-minute speech on how stupid it was that I had to give a 5-minute speech. And the grad assistant said I made a great argument for why debate and argument students don't need to take Speech 101. You know, but you know, so was I proficient in being able to give a speech? Yes. Did I check the box? No. And so that's how proficiencies are really changing the landscape, but it's slow.
Well, and actually, in some ways, it's good for elementary and middle schools, because there's always been the accusation that kids get tasks one page on their age cohort rather than whether or not they've done the work. And I think it's reasonable to say that elementary schools should hit certain levels of accomplishment. Because if they can't, and there's a sign that accommodations haven't been identified or somebody hasn't done the job. And in either case, that's important for us.
Andy, where does the volunteer work hours, is that still a part of that proficiency thing? Where the student has to give so many hours of volunteerism? Or,
Yeah.
You know,
the work credit?
I'd have to get back to you on, I don't know if that's. Go ahead, Krista.
16 hours.
There's a seat still required service, and they also do, and they have to do their project.
So there is a senior project they still have to do. I thought I had heard somewhere that the community service was not a requirement anymore, but
I think that's still on.
I've had some kids call me,
right,
and see if they could do something for the church.
I know there's a lot of kids who are.
Yeah,
but
it was, at least my last year, it was still on the sheet.
Yeah.
I don't think that necessarily means, that, I think this is more that if you don't meet proficiency, you can have that community service, you can have that senior project, and you're still gonna have trouble graduating if you're not ready to graduate. In the interest of time, are there any further questions? And I would entertain a motion to consider all these for approval in a group unless there's something.
I move that we accept these policies as a group.
All right.
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. Call the question. We'll begin with our remote member. Krista, what say you?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Quinn?
Hi.
Rev?
Aye.
We got them passed. We're now on to director's comments, and we'll start with you, Harold.
Don't let me.
Lynn?
No.
Kathy?
Good meeting.
Kathy?
No, I'm glad we're moving on to, some success with the playground. And, have coming up, our Thanksgiving dinner on
Mhm.
November 10th.
Thank you for mentioning that. Marty?
I'm good.
Krista?
None.
All right, date of the next meeting. Are we anticipating needing to meet prior to the fourth Thursday of November? Because
I don't
was thinking-
anticipate it. You know,
Unless you're like gonna be ready for the stuff for
Budget
the
stuff.
budget.
again, I think, our next SU meeting we set for, because we did it yesterday, I can't remember.
We did it for
The
the,
16th or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
We're not gonna have anything before that.
no.
okay,
that time,
then let's set it for the fourth Thursday of November at 6 PM at the Grafton Elementary School. Yeah, Krista, yes,
That's Thanksgiving.
you're right, and I should know that.
Right.
Then I will circulate among members and see if we can find a more appropriate date in November.
Yeah, because the 3rd I have select board.
So, yeah,
Well,
you
then
got,
that's just not that important. Yeah,
I mean, the 10th is the
Thanksgiving.
festival.
11th is the Veterans Day.
You have the 17th.
but you sound like you might not be
Well,
available.
17th I would be available, but the only thing I just don't know is if Westminster's having it, but I could also pull in some, we can split. I can ask Deb to go to one and I can come to the
All
other.
right, well,
So
let us provisionally say the 17th.
I would recommend the 17th to you based on the fact that Thanksgiving.
Okay, then let's put that in and keep your
I'll look at the agendas and see.
look at
which
the
one is-
agenda because you'll actually get
Right.
that as opposed to the notices apparently.
Yeah, well, see.
All right, my,
Or if you could get me out by 6:45, then I could go to this.
we'll have a chat. Krista, did I get a director's comment from you?
Did you get a what?
I get a director's comment from you.
I don't have,
Nothing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm just glad that we're going to be able to get done in the fourth quarter of the hour.
Yeah.
And I'll send a snarky note to Molly about how much longer her meeting is. Move to adjourn, someone?
I move to adjourn.
Any objections?
None.
Hearing none, we are done for tonight. Thank you all.
Thank you.